Senator James Lankford, Republican from Oklahoma and member of the Homeland Security Committee, joins me now from Capitol Hill. Senator, thank you so much for being with us today. First off, I'd like to get your reaction to Iran's attack last night on U.S. troops.
Obviously, Iran has attacked U.S. troops over and over again for the last several months. Last night was just the latest of those attacks, the largest of those attacks using ballistic missiles on it, but they have used rockets 11 different times in the past 2 months. They've also used improvised explosive devices on our supply vehicles coming through Iraq multiple times over the last couple of months. Not to mention the attacks they've done on mines on ships, taking over ships in the Persian Gulf, the attacks on the Saudis. So this is an ongoing pattern for them that at some point Iran has to be able to sit down with us and to say, how does this come to an end?
So what's next, and what's the likelihood that we could see a diplomatic resolution to this crisis?
Best diplomatic resolution that we would have is that Iran would say, okay, we launched missiles after your attack on Soleimani and taking out that known terrorist that the United States took out several days ago, and that now that both sides would sit down and say, we've responded, it's time to be able to sit down and work out a diplomatic solution long term, which has been something we've extended for a very long time with Iran. Is a statement to be able to say everyone knows they've been a designated terrorist state since 1984, and the acts that they've carried out have been recognized by the UN, by the EU, and certainly by the United States for a very long time. So it's time to be able to sit down and actually see how they actually join the rest of the nations and not be a terrorist state.
Senator, your Democratic colleagues have been calling on the Trump administration to provide more details about the intelligence that led to that strike and that killed General Soleimani. And a lot of this information is classified. But based on what you've heard, do you stand behind the president's actions?
I do, actually. What's been interesting is there have been some of my colleagues that have said if we don't know that Soleimani wasn't going to carry out a strike in the next 24 hours, it's not imminent enough. Soleimani was barred from travel at all. He had left from Iran, had gone to Syria to meet with the Assad regime, and then had moved to Iraq, which, again, he's barred to be able to do that by the UN at all. He's meeting with another terrorist leader in Iraq that is coordinating all the attacks against Americans. Clearly, he's there with a purpose to be able to help assist them for that. We have intelligence information on what his plans were in the days ahead. So clearly, he's in the process of planning the next attack against Americans. He was also in a location where he was away from civilians. It was 4 o'clock in the morning, so there was no other threat from civilians. It was an appropriate time to be able to take a strike on someone we know is in the process of planning another attack on Americans when there are no other civilians that are around. So it's entirely appropriate to be able to take the strike on that person at that time.
Before we let you go, switching gears for just a moment, impeachment remains the other big issue on Capitol Hill. If you could, give us your thoughts and what you think really is going to happen from here.
So we're waiting still for the House of Representatives to be able to send over impeachment documents to the Senate. Obviously, the Senate's not asking for those by any means. We've got work to do on the trade negotiations with Canada and Mexico. We have other judges that we need to be able to work through the process on. We've got a lot of other things that we'll continue to be able to do. The House is still waiting to be able to select their managers, who's even going to make the case to the Senate. But at this point, we're still waiting to be able to see. When it arrives in the Senate, we will do the exact same procedures for the impeachment trial that was done during the Clinton trial. That was a bipartisan agreement at that time. There's no reason that can't be the exact same agreement that we would use at this time. And we'll set up those same exact procedures for the Clinton trial in 1999, and then do that procedures to be able to go through the hearing at whatever time period the House chooses to send it over to us.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Senator James Lankford, Republican from Oklahoma, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Great. Thank you.